Swell. Welcome to another ASMRyGuy video. I'm so excited you stopped by, and I'm excited to bring you this video. Well, in today's video, we're going to be doing some more reading. I really do love reading, and I've yet to finish this poem book, so I think we're just gonna finish it. We got a long video ahead for you folks, so without further ado, sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. In the home stretch, she stood against the kitchen sink and looked over the sink out through a dusty window at weeds the water from the sink made tall. She wore her cape, her hat was in her hand. Behind her was confusion in the room, of chairs turned upside down to sit like people in other chairs, and something come to look. For every room a house has parlor, bedroom, and dining room, through pell-mell in the kitchen, and now and then a smudged infernal face looked in a door behind her and addressed her back. She always answered without turning. "Where will I put this walnut bureau, lady? Put it in on top of something that's on top of something else," she laughed. "Oh, put it where you can tonight and go. It's almost dark. You must be getting started back to town." Another blackened face thrust in and looked and smiled, and when she did not turn, spoke gently. "What are you seeing out the window, lady? Never was I belated so before. Would evidence of having been called lady more than so many times make me a lady in common law, I wonder? But I ask, what are you seeing out the window, lady? What I'll be seeing more of in the years to come, as here I stand and go the round of many plates with towels many times. And what is that? You only put me off. Rank weeds that love the water from the dishpan more than some woman like the dishpan. Joe, a little stretch of mowing field for you. Not much of that until I come to woods that end all, and it's scarce enough to call a view. And you know, and yet you think you like it, dear. That's what you're so concerned to know. You hope I like it." Bang goes something big away off there upstairs. The very tread of men as great as those is shattered to the frame of such a little house. Once left alone, you and I, dear, will go with softer steps up and down stairs through the rooms, and none but sudden winds that snatch them from our hands will ever slam the doors. I think you see more than you like to own out that window. No, for besides the things I tell you of, I only see the years. They come and go in alteration with the weeds, the field, the wood. What kind of years? Why, latter years, different from early years. I see them too. You didn't count them? No, the further off so ran together that I didn't try to. It can scarce be that they would be in number we'd care to know, for we are not young now. And bang goes something else away off there. It sounds as if it were the men went down, and every crash meant one less to return. To lighted city streets we too have known, but now are giving up for country darkness. Come from that window where you see too much for me, and take a livelier view of things from here. They're going. Watch this husky swarming up over the wheel into the sky-high seat, lighting his pipe now, squinting down his nose at the flame, burning downward as he sucks it. See how it makes his nose side bright, a proof how dark it's getting. Can you tell what time it is by that, or by the moon, the new moon? What shoulder did I see her over? Neither. A wire she is of getting stronger every night to see us through our first 2 weeks. But Joe, the stove, before they go, knock on the window, ask them to help you get it on its feet. We stand here dreaming. Hurry, call them back. They're not gone yet. We've got to have the stove, whatever else we want for, and a light. Have we a piece of candle if the lamp and oil are burned out of reach? Again, the house was full of tramping, and the dark door-filling men burst in and seized the stove. A cannon-mouth-like hole was in the wall, to which they set it true by eye, and then came up the jointed stovepipe in their hands, so much too light and airy for their strength, it almost seemed to come ballooning up, it slipping from clumsy clutches toward the ceiling. A fit, said one, and banged a stovepipe shoulder. It's good luck when you move in to begin with. Good luck with your stovepipe. Never mind, it's not so bad in the country. Settle down when people are getting on in life. You'll like it, Joe said. You big boys ought to find a farm and make good farmers and leave other fellows the city work to do. There's not enough for everybody as it is in there. Gods, one said wildly, and when no one spoke, say that to Jimmy here. He needs a farm. But Jimmy only made his jaw recede fool-like and rolled his eyes as if to say he saw himself a farmer. Then there was a French boy who said, with seriousness that made them laugh, "My friend, you ain't know what it is you're ask." He doffed his cap and held it with both hands across his chest to make as 'twere a bow. As 'twere a bow. We're giving you our chances on the farm. And then they all turned to with deafening boots and put each other bodily out of the house. Goodbye to them. We puzzle them. They think I don't know what they think we see and what they leave us to do. That pasture slope that seems the back of some farm presents us and your woods to northward from your window at the sink, waiting to steal a step on us whenever we drop our eyes or turn to other things, as in the game 10-step the children play. Good boys they seemed, and let them love the city. All they could say was God. When you proposed their coming out and making useful farmers, did they make something lonesome go through you? It would take more than them to sicken us of our bargain, but they left us so as to our fate, like fools, past reasoning with. They almost shook me. It's all so much what we have always wanted. I confess it's something bad for a moment, makes it seem even worse still, and so on, down, down, down. It's nothing. It's their leaving us at dusk. I never bore it well when people went the first night after guests have gone. The house seems haunted or exposed. I always take a personal interest in the locking up at bedtime, but the strangeness soon wears off. He fetched a dingy lantern from behind a door. There's that we didn't lose, and these, some matches he unpocketed. For food, the meals we've had no one can take from us. I wish that everything on earth were just as certain as the meals we've had. I wish the meals we haven't had were anyway. What have you know where to lay your hands on? The bread we bought in passing at the store, there's butter somewhere too. Let's rend the spread. I'll light the fire for company for you. You'll not have any other company till Ed begins to get out on a Sunday, to look us over and give us his idea of what wants pruning, shingling, breaking up. He'll know what he would do if he were we, and all at once. He'll plan for us and plan to help us, but he'll take it out in planning. Well, you can set the table with the loaf. Let's see you find your loaf. I'll light the fire. I like chairs occupying other chairs, not offering a lady. There, again, Joe. You're tired. I'm drunk, nonsensical, tired out. Don't mind a word I say. It's a day's work. To empty one house of household goods and fill another with them 15 miles away, although you do no more than dump them down. Dumped down in paradise we are, and happy. It's all so much what I have always wanted. I can't believe it's what you wanted too. Shouldn't you like to know? I'd like to know if it is what you wanted, then how much you wanted it for me. A troubled conscience. You don't want me to tell if I don't know. I don't want to find out what can't be known, but who first said the word to come? My dear, it's who first thought the thought. You're searching, Joe, for things that don't exist. I mean beginnings, ends in the beginnings. There are no such things. There are only middles. What is this? This life? Our sitting here by lantern light together amid the wreckage of a former home. You won't deny the lantern isn't new. The stove is not, and you are not to me, nor I to you. Perhaps you never were. It wouldn't take me forever to recite all that's not new in where we find ourselves. New is a word for fools in towns who think style upon style in dress, in thought, at last must get somewhere. I've heard you say as much. No, this is no beginning. Then an end. End is a gloomy word. Is it too late to drag you out for just a good night call on the old peach trees on the knoll to grope by starlight in the grass for a last peach? The neighbors may not have taken at their right when the house wasn't lived in. I've been looking. I doubt if they have left us many grapes before we set ourselves to right the house. The first thing in the morning out we go to the round of apple, cherry, peach, pine, alder, pasture, mowing, well, and brook, all of a farm it is. I know this much. I'm going to put you in your bed. If first I have to make you build it. Come, the light. When there was no more lantern in the kitchen, the fire got out through crannies in the stove and danced in yellow wrigglers on the ceiling, as much at home as if they'd always danced there. The road not taken. Two roads diverged in a yellow wood, and sorry I could not travel both, and be one traveler long I stood, and looked down one as far as I could, to where it bent in the overgrowth. Then took the other we as just as fair, and having perhaps the better claim, because it was grassy and wanted wear, though as for that the passing there had worn them really about the same, and both that morning equally lay in leaves no step had trodden black. Oh, I kept the first for another day, yet knowing how way leads on to way, I doubted if I should ever come back. I shall be telling this with a sigh, somewhere ages and ages hence. Two roads diverged in a wood, and I took the one less traveled by, and that has made all the difference. The oven bird. There is a singer everyone has heard, loud a midsummer and a midwood bird, who makes the solid tree trunks sound again. He says that leaves are old and that for flowers midsummer is spring as 1 to 10. He says the early petal fall is past, when pear and cherry bloom went down in showers, on sunny days a moment overcast, and comes that other fall we name the fall. He says the highway dust is over all, the bird would cease and be as other birds, but that he knows in singing not to sing. The question that he frames myself unseen. I see in white defined, far off the homes of men, and farther still, the graves of men, not an opposing hill, living or dead, whichever are most to mind, and if by noon I have too much of these, I have but to turn on my arm, and lo, the sunburned hillside sets my face aglow. My breathing shakes the bluet like a breeze. I smell the earth, I smell the bruised plant. I look into the creator of the ant. The sound of trees. I wonder about the trees. Why do we wish to bear forever the noise of these more than another noise, so close to our dwelling place? We suffer them by the day till we lose all measure of pace and fixity in our joys, and acquire a listening air. They are that talks of going, but never gets away, and that talks no less for knowing, and it grows wiser and older, that now it means to stay. My feet tug at the floor, and my head sways to my shoulder. Sometimes when I watch trees sway from the window or the door, I shall set forth for somewhere. I shall make the reckless choice some day when they are in voice and tossing, so as to scare the white clouds over them on. I shall have less to say, but I shall be gone. Hyla Brook. By June, our brooks run out of song, and speed sought for much after that. It will be found either to have gone groping underground, and taken with it all the Hyla breed that shouted in the mist a month ago, like a ghost of sleigh bells in a ghost of snow, or flourished and come up in jewel weed, weak foliage that is blown upon and bent even against the way its waters went. Its bed is left a faded paper sheet of dead leaves stuck together by the heat, a brook to none but who remember long. This as it is, this as it will be seen, its other far. Then with brooks taken otherwise in song, we love the things we love for what they are. My November guest. My sorrow when she's here with me thinks these dark days of autumn rain are beautiful as days can be. She loves the bare, the withered tree. She walks the sodden pasture lane. Her pleasure will not let me stay. She talks and I am fain to list. She's glad the birds are gone away. She's glad her simple worsted gray is silver now with clinging mist. The desolate, deserted trees, the faded earth, the heavy sky, the beauties she so truly sees. She thinks I have no eye for these, and vexes me for reason why. Not yesterday I learned to know the love of bare November days, before the coming of the snow, but it were vain to tell her so, and they are better for her praise. Range finding. The battle rent a cobweb diamond strung, and cut a flower beside a ground bird's nest, before it trained a single human breast. The stricken flower bent double and so hung, and still the bird revisited her young. A butterfly its fall had dispossessed, a moment sought in air his flower of rest, then lightly stooped to it and fluttering clung. On the bare upland pasture there had spread, or night twixt mullein stalks a wheel of thread, and straining cables wet with silver dew. A sudden passing bullet shook it dry. The indwelling spider ran to greet the fly, but finding nothing, sullenly withdrew. October. this day slow. Make the day seem to us less brief. Hearts not averse to being beguiled. Beguile us in the way you know. Release one leaf at break of day. At noon release another leaf. One from our trees, one far away. Retard the sun with gentle mist. Enchant the land with amethyst. Slow, slow, for the grapes' sake, if they were all, whose leaves already are burnt with frost. Those whose clustered fruit must else be lost, for the grapes' sake, along the wall. To the thawing wind. Come with rain, O loud southwester. Bring the singer, bring the nester. Give the buried flower a dream. Make the settled snowbank steam. Find the brown beneath the white. But whatever you do tonight, bathe my window, make it flow. Melt it as the ice will go. Melt the glass and leave the sticks like a hermit's crucifix. Burst into my narrow stall. Swing the picture on the wall. Run the rattling pages o'er. Scatter poems on the floor. Turn the poet out of door. A time to talk. When a friend calls to me from the road and slows his horse to a meaning walk, I don't stand still and look around on all the hills I haven't hoed and shout from where I am, what is it? No, not as there is a time to walk. I thrust my hoe in the mellow ground, blade end up and 5 feet tall, and plod I go up to the stone wall for a friendly visit. The code. There were 3 in the meadow by the brook, gathering up windrows, piling cocks of hay, with an eye always lifted toward the west, where an irregular sun-bordered cloud darkly advanced with a perpetual dagger, flickering across its bosom. Suddenly one helper, thrusting pitchfork in the ground, marched himself off the field and home. One stayed. The town-bred farmer failed to understand. What was there wrong? Something you just now said. What did I say? About our taking pains to cock the hay because it's going to shower. I said that more than half an hour ago. I said it to myself as much as you. You didn't know, but James is one big fool. He thought you meant to find fault with his work. That's what the average farmer would have meant. James would take time, of course, to chew it over before he acted. He's just got around to act. He is a fool if that's the way he takes me. Don't let it bother you. You've found out something. The hand that knows his business won't be told to do work better or faster. Those 2 things. I'm as particular as anyone. Most likely I'd have served you just the same, but I know you don't understand our ways. You were just talking what was in your mind. What was in all of our minds, and you weren't hinting. Tell you a story of what happened once. I was up here in Salem at a man's named Sanders with a gang of 4 or 5 doing the haying. No one liked the boss. He was one of the kind sports called a spider, all wiry arms and legs that spread out wavy from a humped body, nigh as big as a biscuit, but work. That man could work, especially if by so doing he could get more work out of his hired help. I'm not denying he was hard on himself. I couldn't find that he kept any hours, not for himself. Daylight and lantern light were one to him. I've heard him pounding in the barn all night, but what he liked was someone to encourage them that he couldn't lead. He'd get behind and drive the way you can, in mowing. Keep at their heels and threaten to mow their legs off. I'd seen about enough of his bullying tracks. We call that bullying. I'd been watching him, so when he paired off with me in the hayfield to load the load, thinks I, look out for trouble. I built the load and topped it off. Old Sanders combed it down break and says, "Okay." Everything went well till we reached the barn with a big jag to empty in a bay. You understand that meant the easy job for the man up on top of throwing down the hay and rolling it off wholesale, where on a mow it would have been slow lifting. You wouldn't think a fellow'd need much arguing under those circumstances, would you now? But the old fool seizes his fork in both hands and looking up, bewhiskered out of the pit, shouts like an army captain, "Let her come!" Thinks I, do you mean it? What was that you said? I asked out loud so there's be no mistake. Did you say let her come? Yes, let her come. He said it over, but he said it softer. Never you say a thing like that to a man, not if he values what he is. God, I'd as soon murdered him as left out his middle name. I'd built the load and knew right where to find it. 2 or 3 forkfuls I picked lightly round for a little meditating, and then I just dug in and dumped the rackful on him, and then lots. I looked over the side once in the dust and caught sight of him, treading water like, keeping his head above. "Damn ye," I says, "that gets ye," he squeaked, like a squeezed rat. That was the last I saw or heard of him. I cleaned the rack and drove out to cool off. As I sat mopping hayseed from my neck and sort of waiting to be asked about it, one of the boys sings out, "Where's the old man?" "I left him in the barn under the hay. If you want him, ye can go and dig him out." They realized from the way I swathed my neck more than was needed, something must be up. They headed for the barn. I stayed where I was. They told me afterward. First they forked hay, a lot of it, out into the barn floor. Nothing. They listened for him. Not a rustle. I guess they thought I'd spiked him in the temple before I buried him, or I couldn't have managed. They excavated more. Go keep his wife out of the barn. Someone looked in a window and cursed me if he wasn't in the kitchen, slumped away down in a chair with both his feet stuck in the oven. The hottest day that summer. He looked so clean, disgusted from behind. There was no one that dared to stir him up or let him know that he was being looked at. Apparently I hadn't buried him. I may have knocked him down, but my just trying to bury him had hurt his dignity. He had gone to the house so not to meet me. He kept away from us all afternoon. We tended to his hay. We saw him out after a while picking peas in his garden. He couldn't keep away from doing something. Weren't you relieved to find he wasn't dead? No, and yet I don't know. It's hard to say. I went about to kill him fair enough. You took an awkward way. Did he discharge you? Discharge me? No, he knew I did just right. 100 callers. Lancaster bore him such a little town, such a great man. It doesn't see him often of late years, though he keeps the old homestead and sends the children down there with their mother to run wild in the summer, a little wild. Sometimes he joins them for a day or 2 and sees old friends he somehow can't get near. They meet him in the general store at night, preoccupied with formidable mail, rifling a printed letter as he talks. They seem afraid he wouldn't have it so. Though a great scholar, he's a Democrat, if not at heart, at least on principle. Lately, when coming up to Lancaster, his train being late, he missed another train and had 4 hours to wait at Woodsville Junction after 11 o'clock at night. Too tired to think of sitting such an ordeal out, he turned to the hotel to find a bed. No room, the night clerk said, unless Woodsville's a place of shrieks and wandering lamps and cars that shock and rattle, and one hotel. You say unless. Unless you wouldn't mind sharing a room with someone else. Who is it? A man. So I should hope. What kind of man? I know him. He's all right. A man's a man. Separate beds, of course, you understand. The night clerk blinked his eyes and dared him on. Who's that man sleeping in the office chair? As he had the refusal of my chance. He was afraid of being robbed or murdered. What do you say? I'll have to have a bed. The night clerk led him up 3 flights of stairs and down a narrow passage full of doors, at the last one of which he knocked and entered. Leif, here's a fellow who wants to share your room. Show him the way. I'm not afraid of him. I'm not so drunk I can't take care of myself. The night clerk clapped a bedstead on the foot. This will be yours. Good night, he said, and went. Leify was the name, I think. Yes, Lafayette. You got it the first time. And yours, Magoon. Dr. Magoon. A doctor. Well, a teacher. Professor, square the circle till you're tried. Hold on. There's something I don't think of now that I had on my mind to ask the first man that knew anything I happened in with. I'll ask you later. Don't let me forget it. The doctor looked at Leif and looked away. A man, a brute, naked above the waist. He sat there, creased and shining in the light, fumbling the buttons in a well-starched shirt. I'm moving into a size larger shirt. I felt mean lately. Mean's no name for it. I just found what the matter was tonight. I've been a-joking like a nursery tree when it outgrows the wide band of its name tag. I blamed it on the hot spell we've been having. 'Twas nothing but my foolish hanging back, not liking to own up. I'd grown a size. Number 18 this is. What size do you wear? The doctor caught his throat convulsively. 14. You say so. I can remember when I wore 14. Too bad to waste them all. You ought to have them. They're yours and welcome. Let me send them to you. What makes you stand there on one leg like that? You're too much further than where Kike left you. You act as if you wished you hadn't come. Sit down or lie down, friend. You make me nervous. The doctor made a subdued dash for it and propped himself at bay against the pillow. Not that way with your shoes on Keek's white bed. You can't rest that way. Let me pull your shoes off. Don't touch me, please. I say, don't touch me, please. I'll not be put to bed by you, my man. Just as you say, have it your own way then. My man, is it? You talk like a professor. Speaking of who's afraid of who. However, I'm thinking I have more to lose than you. If anything should happen to be wrong, who wants to cut your number 14 throat? Let's have a showdown as an evidence of good faith. There is $90. Come, if you're not afraid. I'm not afraid. There's 5. That's all I can carry. I can search you. Where are you moving over to? Stay still. You'd better tuck your money under you and sleep on it, the way I always do when I'm with people I don't trust at night. Will you believe me if I put it there right on the counter, pane that I do trust you? You'd say so, Mr. Man. I'm a collector. My 90 isn't mine. You don't think that I pick it up $1 at a time all around the country for the weekly news published in Bow. You know the weekly news. Known it since I was young. Then you know me. Now we're getting on together talking. I'm sort of something for it at the front. My business is to find what people want. They pay for it, and so they ought to have it. Fairbanks, he says to me, he's editor. Feel out. The public sentiment, he says. A good deal comes on me when all is said. The only trouble is we disagree in politics. I'm Vermont Democrat. You know what that is. Sort of double-dyed. The news has always been Republican. Fairbanks, he says to me, help us this year, meaning buy us their ticket. No, I says, I can't and won't. You've been in long enough. It's time you turned around and boosted us. You'll have to pay me more than 10 a week if I'm expected to elect Bill Taft. I doubt if I could do it anyway. You seem to shape the paper's policy. You see, I'm in with everybody. You know them all. I almost know their farms as well as they do. You drive around. It must be pleasant work. It's business, but I can't say it's not fun. What I like best's the lay of different farms coming out on them from a stretch of woods, or over a hill, or round a sudden corner. I like to find folks getting out in spring, raking the dooryard, working near the house. Later they get out further in the fields. Everything's shut sometimes except the barns. The family's all away in some back meadow. There's a hay load a-coming when it comes, and later still they all get driven in. The fields are stripped to lawn, the garbage patches stripped to bare ground, the apple trees to whips and poles. There's nobody about. The chimney, though, keeps up a good brisk smoking, and I lie back and ride. I take the reins only when someone's coming, and the mare stops when she likes. I tell her when to go. I've spoiled Jemima in more ways than one. She's got so she turns in at every house as if she had some sort of curvature. No matter if I have no errand there, she thinks I'm sociable. I maybe am. It's seldom I get down except for meals, though folks entertain me from the kitchen doorstep. All in a family now, row down to the youngest. One would suppose they might not be as glad to see you as you are to see them. Oh, because I want their dollar. I don't want anything they've not got. I've never done. I'm there. And they can pay me if they like. I go nowhere on purpose. I happen by. Sorry, there's no cup to give you a drink. I drink out of the bottle, not your style. Mayn't I offer you? No, thank you. Just as you say. Here's looking at you then, and now I'm leaving you a little while. You'll rest easier when I'm gone, perhaps. Lie down, let yourself go, and get some sleep. But first, let's see. What was I going to ask you? Those callers, who shall I address them to? Suppose you aren't awake when I come back. Really, friend, I can't let you. You may need them. Not till I shrink, when they'll be out of style. But really, I have so many callers. I don't know who I rather would have them. They're only turning yellow where they are. But you're the doctor, as the saying is. I'll put the light out. Don't you wait for me. I've just begun the night. You get some sleep. I'll knock so fashion and peep around the door when I come back so you'll know who it is. There's nothing I'm afraid of like scared people. I don't want you should shoot me in the head. What am I doing carrying off this bottle? There now, you get some sleep. He shut the door. The doctor slid a little down the pillow. Blueberries. You ought to have seen what I saw on my way to the village through Mortenson's pasture today. Blueberries as big as the end of your thumb. Real sky blue and heavy and ready to drum in the cavernous pail of the first one to come, and all ripe together, not some of them green and some of them ripe. You ought to have seen. I don't know what part of the pasture you mean. You know, where they cut off the woods. Let me see. It was 2 years ago. Or no, can it be no longer than that? And the following fall, the fire ran and burned it all up but the wall. Why, there hasn't been time for the bushes to grow. That's always the way the blueberries, though. as a conjurer's trick. It must be on charcoal. They fatten their fruit. I taste in them sometimes the flavor of soot. And after all, really, they're ebony-skinned, the blues, but a mist from the breath of the wind, a tarnish that goes at a touch of the hand, and less than the tan with which pickers are tanned. Does Mortensen have what he has to do you think he may and not care, and so leave the chewink to gather them for him? You know what he is. He won't make the fact that they're rightfully his an excuse for keeping us other folk out. I wonder you didn't see Lauren about. The best of it was that I did. Do you know I was just getting through what the field had to show and over the wall and into the road when who should come by with a democrat load of all the young chattering Laurens alive, but Lauren the fatherly out for a drive. He saw you then. What did he do? Did he frown? He just kept nodding his head up and down. You know how politely he always goes by, but he thought a big thought I could tell by his eye, which being expressed might be this in effect: I have left these there berries, I shrewdly suspect, to ripen too long. I am greatly to blame. He's a thriftier person than some I could name. He seems to be thrifty, and hasn't he need? With the mouths of all those young Laurens to feed, he has brought them all up on wild berries, they say. Like birds, they store a great many away. They eat them the year round, and those they don't eat, they sell in the store and buy shoes for their feet. Who cares what they say? It's a nice way to live, just taking that what nature is willing to give, not forcing her hand with a harrow and plow. I wish you had seen his perpetual bow, and the air of the youngsters. Not one of them turned, and they looked so solemnly, absurdly concerned. I wish I knew half what the flock of them were. No, of where all the berries and other things grow, cranberries and bogs and raspberries on top of the boulder-strewn mountain, and when they will crop. I met them one day, and each had a flower stuck into his berries as fresh as a shower. Some strange kind, they told me. It hadn't a name. I've told you how once, now long after we came, I almost provoked poor Lauren to mirth by going to him, of all people on earth, to ask if he knew any fruit to be had for the picking. The rascal, he said he'd be glad to tell if he knew, but the year had been bad. There had been some berries, but those were all gone. He didn't say where they had been. He went on, I'm sure, as polite as could be. He spoke to his wife in the door. Let me see. Marn, we don't know any good berrying place. It was all he could do to keep a straight face. If he thinks all the fruit that grows wild is for him, he'll find he's mistaken. Stay here for a whim. We'll pick in the Mortenson's pasture this year. We'll go in the morning, that is, if it's clear, and the sun shines out warm. The vines must be wet. It's so long since I picked, I almost forget how we used to pick berries. We took one look round, then sank out of sight like trolls underground, and sat another, and saw nothing more of each other or heard, unless when you said I was keeping a bird away from its nest, and I said it was you. Well, one of us is, for complaining it flew around and around us, and then for a while we picked till I feared you, and wandered a mile, and I thought I had lost you. I lifted a shout too loud for the distance you were, it turned out, for when you made answer your voice was as low as talking. You stood up beside me, you know. We shan't have the place to ourselves to enjoy. Not likely when all the young Laurens deploy. They'll be there tomorrow or even tonight. They won't be too friendly. They may be polite to people they look on us on as having no right to pick where they're picking, but we won't complain. You ought to have seen how it looked in the rain. The fruit mixed with water in layers of leaves, like two kinds of jewels, a vision for thieves. Brown's Descent, or the Will-Nilly Slide. Brown lived at such a lofty farm that everyone for miles could see his lantern when he did his chores in winter after 3:30, and many must have seen him make his wild descent from there one night. Cross lots, cross walls, cross everything, cross describing rings of lantern light. Between the house and barn, the gale got him by something he had on and blew him out on the icy crust that cased the world, and he was gone. Walls were all buried, trees were few. He saw no one stay unless he stove a hole in somewhere with his heel. But though repeatedly he strove and stamped and things to himself, and sometimes something seemed to yield, he gained no foothold but pursued his journey down from field to field. Sometimes he came with arms outspread like wings revolving in a scene upon his longer axis, and with no small dignity of mien, faster or slower as he chanced, sitting or standing as he chose, according as he feared to risk his neck or thought to spare his clothes. He never let the lantern drop, and some exclaimed who saw afar the figures he described with it, "I wonder what those signals are Brown makes at such an hour of night. He's celebrating something strange. I wonder if he sold his farm or been made master of the grange." He reeled, he lurched, he bobbed, he checked, he fell, and made the lantern rattle, but saved the light from going out. So halfway down he fought the battle, incredulous of his own bad luck, and then becoming reconciled to everything he gave it up, and came down like a coasting child. "Well, I be," that was all he said, as standing in the river road, he looked back up the slippery slope. 2 miles it was to his abode. Sometimes, as in authority on motor cars, I'm asked if I should say or stock was petered out, and this is my sincere reply: Yankees are what they always were. Don't think Brown ever gave up hope of getting home again because he couldn't climb that slippery slope, or even thought of standing there until the January thaw should take the polish off the crust. He bowed with grace to natural law, and then went round it on his feet after the manner of our stock, not much concerned for those to whom at that particular time o'clock it must have looked as if the course he steered was really straight away from that which he was headed for. Not much concern for them, I say. But now he snapped his eyes 3 times, then shook his lantern, saying, "I'll spout out," and took the long way home by road, a matter of several miles. Revelation. We make ourselves a place apart behind light words that tease and flout, but oh, the agitated heart, till someone really find us out. A pity if the case require, or as we say, that in the end we speak the literal to inspire the understanding of a friend. But so with all, from babes that play at hide and seek to God afar, so all who hide too well away must speak and tell us where they are. Storm fear. When the wind works against us in the dark and pelts with snow the lower chamber window on the east, and whispers with a sort of stifled bark, "The beast, come out, come out." It costs no inward struggle not to go. Ah, do I count our strength too, and a child, those of us not asleep, subdued to mark out the cold creeps as the fire dies at length, how drifts are piled, dooryard and road ungraded, till even the comforting barn grows far away, and my heart owns a doubt whether 'tis is in us to arise with day and save ourselves unaided. Bond and free. Love has earth to which she clings, with hills encircling arms about, wall within wall to shut fear out. But thought has need of no such things, for thought has a pair of dauntless wings. On snow and sand and turf I see where love has left a printed trace, with straining in the world's embrace. And such is love, and glad to be, but thought has shaken his ankles free. Though cleaves the interstellar gloom, and sits in Sirius's disk all night, till day makes him retrace his flight, with smell of burning on every plume, back past the sun to an earthly room. His gains in heaven are what they are, yet some say love by being thrall, and simply staying possesses all, in several beauty that thought fares far, to find fused in another star. Flower gathering. I left you in the morning, and in the morning glow you walked away beside me to make me sad to go. Do you know me in the gloaming, gaunt and dusty gray with roaming? Are you dumb because you know me not, or dumb because you know all for me, and not a question for the faded flowers gay, that could take me from aside you for the ages of a day? They are yours, and be the measure of their worth for you to treasure, the measure of the little while that I've been long away. Reluctance. Out through the fields and the woods and over the walls I have wended. I have climbed the hills of view and looked at the world and descended. I have come by the highway home, and to lo, it is ended. The leaves are all dead on the ground, save those that the oak is keeping, to travel them one by one, and to let them go scraping and creeping out over the crusted snow when others are sleeping. And the dead leaves lie huddled and still, no longer blown hither and thither. The last lone aster is gone, the flowers of the witch hazel wither. The heart is still aching to seek, but the feet question whither. Ah, when to the heart of man was it ever less than a treason to go with the drift of things, to yield with a grace to reason, and bow and accept the end of a love or a season into my own? One of my wishes is that those dark trees, so old and firm they scarcely show the breeze, were not as 'twere the merest mark of gloom, but stretched away unto the edge of doom. I should not be withheld, but that some day into their vastness I should steal away, fearless of ever finding open land, or highway where the slow wheel pours the sand. I do not see why I should e'er turn back, or those should not set forth upon my track to overtake me, who should miss me here, and long to know if still I held them dear. They would not find me changed from him they knew, only more sure of all I thought was true. Wow, that was a lot of reading. Well, we finished the book. Almost an hour later, we finished. Well, thank you for stopping by. I hope you enjoyed that. I enjoyed it. It was a lot, but I enjoyed it. Well, feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and turn on those notifications. I greatly appreciate all of you. And I hope you enjoyed this video. Have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next one.